How you guys doing today?
Well, a couple of you guys are awake. The rest of you feel like me.
I'm about to get a lot more energy. If you guys can't tell, I'm double fisting coffees right now. Much like what I do when I record for Demon Slayer.
Alright, so this is our Demon Slayer panel.
Yeah.
Where,
we'll probably not talk about Demon Slayer too much.
and talk about demons and slaying.
Yes.
Yeah, it might help if you had questions. I know it's a little early for that, but if you had questions, we can attempt to answer them.
Should we kind of start by telling them who we play in the show and a little bit about the experience recording?
That sounds like a great idea.
Awesome.
Sounds like you've done this before.
I'm just making it up. I've never done this before. Actually, this is our first Demon Slayer panel.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'll start off by telling you, first off, if you don't know who I am, I'm Johnny Yong Bosch, and I voice Giyuu, Tomioka.
And I'm Bryce Papenbrook, and I voice Inosuke in Demon Slayer.
So that's about it. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, guys. So for you, Johnny, when you stepped in the booth, was Giyuu anything different than other characters you've played? I feel like it was very much in your wheelhouse.
He's definitely in my wheelhouse, for sure. When I got the audition, I saw a picture of him, and then they sent us those little video clips or something.
Yeah.
And so I had some video clips to play off of, but then I looked up things and other stuff about him, and saw some other, I think it was like maybe YouTube or something, some other moments with him, and I was like, oh, this is definitely somebody I want to play. So then I just went through the audition as I felt like he should be played, and they were like, yeah, cool, all right, we like that. And
Yep, that's him.
That's him. That's him.
It's great. It's great when that happens. You sound really awesome in the show. I think we have just a few moments in scenes together, and most of my character, looking at your character, is just him like excited to see him, and like sparkles around him every time your character comes through the show, just like so excited to see you kill things. Inosuke, for me, was very different from characters I typically play. So he's voiced by the same seiyuu who voices Kirito. So it's really cool to share another role with him. But I don't know how he got his voice to sound so deep. I think he has a different technique than I do. My technique is literally to drink the worst coffee possible. Like the darkest, strongest brew of coffee where you take a sip and you're like, oh no. I have to get to that point every single line. So I literally brew like the 4-ounce pours at the studio. And every single line before, I take a sip of the coffee, and then under the beeps, I amp myself up. I'm going and then I say the line, to get to where my voice needs to be.
That sounds dangerous. Terrible. It's a heart attack.
It's brutal. I leave those sessions dripping sweat and just so amped up. I don't know what people think as I'm leaving the studio, what happened in there. But yeah, it's been really interesting. The first week, I was just trying to find how hard I could press myself, and I could barely talk after the sessions. But I feel like I found what I need to do to kind of warm up, and using this coffee trick, it's helped. Yeah. Do you ever do a vocal warm up before you go to the studio?
It depends. It depends on the character. For Giyuu, I don't have to do too much. If my session is early, I'm good.
Yeah.
Otherwise I have to maybe do a few shouting just to get myself in the right range.
Gotcha. You do it in the car on the way there?
Yeah. I look like a crazy person. Whatever.
I've never had to do any sort of vocal warm-up until Inosuke, and I have a really unique one. I've mentioned this on other panels this weekend, but might as well share what I do. So, in the car, I have to do this. So yeah.
Look like a crazy person did too.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've turned some heads on the way to the studio a few times. It's been fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you guys have questions for us? All right, we got 3 questions.
Sweet. Want to start? You want to pick one first?
Yeah, I'll pick one. Here we go. Yeah.
Alright, so Johnny, you've been on Power Rangers, and Bryce, you've been with your dad on the set of Power Rangers. So I want to know, have you two ever been on the set of Power Rangers?
Together?
Yeah.
I think you were in a different part of the studio. We were probably in the same place at the same time.
I mean, we could have crossed paths and not even known it. You know? Were you always at the booth?
It was only in post. I went to I don't know if you remember, they had like a studio out in Valencia.
That's where
That's where you worked. Yeah, I went out there a number of times.
Yeah, we definitely could cross paths then. Because I mean, that's where my room was, you know, and that's where obviously we worked. That's where the stage was, and right next door was where all the ADR happened. So.
Yeah, so it's possible.
It's possible, but you know, it's just I was going into work. You were probably going in to do something.
I was just hanging out watching my dad do his thing.
Did you do any voice stuff on that?
So I got thrown in, they needed a kid's voice on the show, and my dad's just like, he's a kid thrown in the booth! So I just did some walla on a few of the episodes.
I think you totally could have done like a putty.
I feel like I could have, yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't in that group. That looked like a lot of fun, though. I did work on one of the movies. I just remember there was like a school bus of kids, and then the bus gets like...
The first movie.
Yep, so I was...
Actually, the second movie had a bus of kids, too.
I'm in one of the buses of kids. I don't know which one, but I'm one of those kids. I'm the voice of one of those kids. So yeah, that was my experience there at Saban. I'm trying to remember what the first project that we were on together was. It might have been Trigun.
Oh, yeah, it had if you were in Trigun.
Yeah, Trigun.
So I don't know if you know this, I play Young Bash. You didn't know that? I've signed so many Triguns, and I'm like, I wonder if Johnny's gonna see this, because
I did not know that.
It's hilarious, yeah. See, we were literally destined to work on shows together.
That's insane.
Isn't that nuts?
That is crazy, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, all those episodes where he's screaming for Rem and like his hair's sticking up, like that was me.
Dude, that's freaking awesome.
And I go back and listen to that, and I'm like, wow, I sound like a little kid there.
It's funny because when I listen to it, I feel like I sound like a little kid.
I mean, that was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
Definitely a while ago.
That was my first voiceover.
Oh, so that was definitely the first time we worked together.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know there was another mech show.
There's a lot of mech shows.
But from around that time.
Around that time?
Yeah. Popular one that you're the lead of.
Not Code Geass.
Yeah, Code Geass.
Code
I'm in that too.
Oh, okay.
I get blown up really fast. And I think back then, I was just kind of getting started too, and really trying to put myself out there. I got called back for, what was the name of your character?
Lelouch.
Lelouch. Yeah, so I auditioned for Lelouch. I got called back. I went into the studio, and then you booked it. I'm like, well, how am I going to compete against that? So yeah, we've
destined.
We've been at this for a while. Yeah,
right.
It's pretty cool that I grew up to play the older brother in Blue Exorcist. That's by 1 minute. We play brothers a bunch.
We play opposites. Blood Lad.
Blood Lad, yeah, that was really fun.
There's quite a few things that the nice thing is anytime that I'm working on a project, if I see your name on there or other people that I recognize that kind of like grew into like in the earlier stages of it, then I'm like, oh, okay, I know this person's gonna bring exactly what needs to be brought to the table. Sometimes if you see a new name, then you're like, oh dear, what kind of project is this, you know?
Yeah, how are we gonna play off each
exactly.
other? Like, yeah, I know when I see your name, it's like,
Right.
oh, awesome.
So it's a little more confident when I see Bryce in there. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, there's been a ton of moments that we've had characters that either hate each other. I mean, most of them don't like each other.
Usually, yeah, we hate each other.
Yeah. I'll pick one over here. Yeah.
Hi guys. I have two questions. So you mentioned before that Inosuke is kind of like a fan of Giyuu, and I was wondering, as a voice actor of Giyuu, what is your the first question? What is your thoughts on why basically Giyuu doesn't really like Inosuke that much? If that's a thing, is it because he's like a fanboy of it? And the second question is, would your Demon Slayer characters, how do you think they would fare in the Attack on Titan universe?
I don't know how much you know about Attack on Titan.
I don't know a lot.
I'll share a little bit before we get to that.
I was like a character in one of the virtual reality things.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I really don't know. I mean, all I know is I was some guy with some sword thing, and I was flying around.
That's all you need to know.
Cutting people. That's their giant things.
It's a lighthearted comedy.
Right. Okay, well, as far as like Giyuu is concerned, I mean, as far as I've been playing him, all his main focus is slaying demons. At this point, as far as what I've gotten into, because there hasn't been a whole lot of him. You know, he's just there, and he seems to have one purpose and one focus. And then is a little offended when somebody says that people don't like him. You know, but he doesn't show it really. He just, you know, later, I don't know how many minutes later, he brings it up like, oh, he's been thinking about this for a while. So that did disturb him, but he doesn't show any emotion, you know, at least not on the outside. So at this point, it hasn't. He's not thinking that far, you know, as far as I know. The only time that I see any other thing that seems a little bit out of his character is when they do the end credit things, when he's just a little bit goofier and wild. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the future, of course. I mean, there's only just one season, right? Or have they done the second?
I think they've announced a movie coming.
Oh, okay.
Is that right, guys? We're always like, is that right? Because they don't tell us anything.
We don't know. We're probably not even supposed to talk about it.
I mean, I know the trailer on that is out, so I'm
I'm
confident saying,
okay.
I'm confident saying that that's been announced. If we're working on it, I have no idea.
That's true. That might not be us.
Fingers crossed it gets to come back, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, Inosuke is loud, and I feel like you wouldn't like someone that's kind of loud and in the way and wants to like show off like that.
Does he always have the boar's head on?
No, he takes it off and he's a beautiful, beautiful man. And they're actually shocked by how beautiful he is. It's really, really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess for your second question, to describe the Attack on Titan world, there's these giant, naked, zombie-like creatures that eat people, and all of humanity has this like jetpack technology to fly up and try to cut their necks. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. That's what you're dealing with.
That's kind of like what you would be up to.
Yeah, I feel like
down for that.
Inosuke already has 2 swords. Like he's ready to go. I feel like he'd be all about like flying and stuff too. He'd probably be so excited to put those jetpacks on, but he wouldn't know how to work them. He'd just be like, "What the hell is this thing?" and start like punching it, and then like shoot the like. I feel like that's what would happen.
Other questions?
Yeah, let's jump around.
Over here, yeah.
I have a question for Bryce. Can you do the Ready or Not, Here I Come line that Inosuke did in episode 11?
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Let me drink some coffee. let me warm my voice up. Hold on 1 second. So we recorded a trailer for the show, and if you listen to that trailer, I might sound a little different because Inosuke doesn't show up until way later. So we recorded this trailer before we started the process of recording, and I hadn't really established the voices of the character. So I got in the booth, and it was just that line. And they said, well, just try a couple things. And I just tried a few things, and they're like, yeah, that was great. And I'm like, wait, really? And they're like, yep, you're good. So if you listen to the trailer, it might sound a little different than what we actually went with when we got in the booth and played around a little more and watched a couple lines together. But that's why we recorded it super early. But it was that line, which I think is an awesome line. Let's go right here.
So, for both of you, regardless of if you play or not, what's your favorite line to be said in any show?
Any show?
Yeah. What's your favorite line?
I mean, have you kept track of how many shows you've worked on?
No, not actual numbers.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. But over the last, whatever, couple decades, it's been hundreds at this point, right? Yeah, so it's hard to narrow it down to a single moment.
I mean, we've got to be past 200, so we've got to be closer to 300s, right?
I think you are. I'm probably in the 200 range. It's crazy to narrow it down to one.
It's hard to narrow down to anything.
How about a good line?
How about a good line?
A line that you really like. You're like, ooh,
I'm not sure.
I had fun saying that.
And there's a lot of those.
Yeah. Well, let's see. All right. Devil May Cry 5 has some good ones. Probably can't say a few of them here. A big F-bomb in the morning, that's probably not great.
F-bomb on a Sunday morning.
I enjoy, a lot of Ichigo stuff is fun too. I'll just give you a shout, because I feel like that's probably going to wake us all up anyways, right? All right, I'll give you a Bankai, how about that? And then I'll tell you a story about Bankai. Alright, so, Bankai, I would always ask, what does that mean? And nobody could ever explain really what it meant. Until somebody, I asked, a couple Japanese people, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of like release. It's like release, maybe it's a release of your power or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That kind of makes sense, I guess. But then, my band had a show in like Orange County, and I was a little early, so I went to go to the 7-Eleven, this kind of whatever outdoor strip mall thing, and I see a sign that says Bankai Dentist. And I was like, what the heck is that? So I didn't go in, but I was just curious, if that's really what it means. Yeah, release.
It's really tough to narrow it down, but this one comes to mind because Erica Mendez said how much she likes this one line that Meliodas says. So I've always, Meliodas and Zeldris in the 7 Deadly Sins, and I have another thing that I have to do to get into Meliodas' voice. I raise my eyebrows so high that it stretches out my vocal cords. So sometimes Meliodas will just show up and go, yo! I don't know why, I just really love that. It makes me happy. There's also, this is good for a Sunday morning also, a lot of pervy moments with Meliodas. He's like this 5,000-year-old overpowered 4'11" pervert. Perfect role for me. So he's very close to Elizabeth, and he goes, "This might get better." Good stuff. And when I recorded that, I literally put my face in my hands like this. And that's the take they took. It's good times. Your turn.
Blue Bear. Yes.
So I have a similar question for each of you. First, Johnny, who would win in a fight, you or Black Ranger? And for Bryce, who would win in a fight, Inosuke or Cat Noir?
You mean in real life?
Yeah, like if they had to fight each other.
If I had to fight the Black Ranger?
No, it's the characters. So
Oh, Giyuu. If Giyuu had to fight. Oh, okay.
And Inosuke versus Katsucon.
All right, that's different. All right. Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. And the Black Ranger has a giant robot that you can get into. Various ones to choose from. And also which season of the Black Ranger, because he has different abilities and powers. Giyuu, as far as what I know, he's just an excellent swordsman. And so I haven't really seen too much of his abilities yet. I know there's more that's going to be revealed later. But at this point, I feel like the Black Ranger could possibly win that one. I don't know. That's, I really don't.
Yeah, I get a lot of these like fight yourself type questions. And it's so hard to answer because I really don't know how this would play out. First off, I don't know how much more powerful Inosuke is going to get. Because at this point, so it's got to be, well, middle of the season, end of the season, because he gets way stronger towards the end. So I don't know. And why is he fighting Cat Noir? Oh yeah, he doesn't like his costume. He looks like a demon. He thinks he's a demon. I feel like Cat Noir would win because he'd say the worst pun ever, and Inosuke would just be like so caught off guard that he'd just like not want to fight anymore. He'd just be like, oh. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see that. I can never pick winners on these ones. Let's go right here.
All right, so for the real question then.
Okay.
Not any of this fake question stuff.
All right.
Two martial artists out there, right?
I'm one coffee down. Here we go.
If you two fought each other, who would win?
Oh gosh, there we go.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
Hey, of course it's coming.
So, was this like a year ago that we were training jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, maybe a year and a half.
So Johnny gets up very early in the morning, goes to the gym and does some jiu-jitsu. I am very much a white belt in jiu-jitsu, so my morning's training with Johnny would be getting up super early and getting choked out very early in the morning.
Now that being said, you've definitely had many years of kickboxing and that sort of stuff, so maybe stand-up might be a different game. So, yeah.
When did you start martial arts?
Very young.
What was your like first style?
Okay, so first style was maybe kind of Taekwondo, but not really. I was just being shown a bunch of kicks, and then I grew up in an area where there were a lot of gangs, and so I got into a lot of fights. I didn't join any gangs, but I got into a lot of street fights. And then my dad was like, "You need to get disciplined," and then I started to study Shaolin Kung Fu. And I studied that for a bit, and then it kind of evolved into other things, JKD, whatnot. Cool. And then to this day, obviously, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Balin walk, stick fighting, knife fighting, all that good stuff.
For me, I was put into Tong Sudo, which is the style Chuck Norris does, around 5, because I was kind of small for my age. And I took to it right away. I was just a gym rat. I literally went to the gym every single day. Around the age of 10, I started doing boxing and Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and Dos Pares, which is stick fighting, stick and knife fighting. Taught all through high school and competed in Muay Thai for years and years and really thought I was going to be a professional fighter. And yeah, still absolutely love it.
He's got a great knockout video.
If you look, Bryce Muay Thai head kick, that was the last competition.
I like the story behind that one though. That was like, didn't the guy just come out of prison or something?
Yeah.
Tell the story.
Yeah, so I was training to be a pro fighter. I was about to do my pro debut actually. So I was all lined up to compete and one of the coaches was like, "Hey, come to this other gym to do some sparring." And I'm like, "Sure." So I show up there and it's what's called a smoker, which is like an underground fight where they match you up and then you compete. Like, you have a full contact fight. And I'm like, I was kind of known in the area, so I'm like, there's no way someone's gonna want to fight me. And this guy comes up and he's like, I'll fight you. I'm like, oh, okay, I have a lot of experience. You want to do like an exhibition? He's like, no, a real fight. I'm like, okay. He's like, I just got out of jail. I want to fight. I'm like, okay. And if you look on YouTube, that's what happened 13 seconds into the fight. Yay! Muay Thai!
It's a great video.
Yeah, it's good times. It's very good times. To connect that back to voice acting, do you feel like you take a lot of the martial arts noises or experience in the booth?
Yeah.
Me too.
That's kind of one of the things, I'm sure that, same for you, but it's one of those things that it's like so easy. Like if there's a long fight, it doesn't matter how long the fight is. I feel comfortable usually in chasing it,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be fine. You know?
I've had a problem where like I get really into it and I lean under the mic. Have you ever done that? Like I'm like literally fighting in the booth, so I'll be like, I'll miss the dodging punches and stuff, and I drive the engineers crazy. They're just like, what are you doing? Because you really can't move much. You have to stay mic'd. Like, they set up the mic very precisely when you step in the booth, and if you're like off just a little bit, like it just can't pick anything up. So yeah, I drive them crazy.
It's awesome. Back in the back. Black shirt. Black shirt? Maroon shirt.
Purple, actually.
Purple. I can't see.
Blue flats?
Oh, you got a black tie. Is that a black tie?
No, I know, it's fine.
No. Not you, you're the wrong person. No, go ahead.
My question was, could you do the Lelouch laugh?
I'm sorry?
The Lelouch laugh?
The Lelouch laugh. Okay.
Is this a nice Sunday morning one also?
I'm gonna find it. Okay, let's see here. That's all you. Pepper, a little crazy, a little cry, a little emotion. There you go.
That's fantastic. It's so fun that it's in there. You're just like, hold on, let me find this. And a perfect laugh comes out. That's awesome. Let's go over here.
Hey, so you two play some of my all-time favorites. You have Shiroganya, Fate, and Broly for the Fighters game. So one for each of you. I know you said earlier that Inosuke is like a different experience for you now, but you do have a lot of that yelling, high-stakes moments in your repertoire. Do you look forward to like doing more characters at like Inosuke, just that rough and rough style, without killing yourself, of course?
I really do like playing Inosuke and characters that yell. I feel like it's kind of my typecast to play yelly characters that dual wield. I don't know why, but it's just like a ton of them. So yeah, I really do like playing that kind of role. I feel like a lot of the yelling came from teaching martial arts. Like, I would just go to the studio and just yell at kids and yell at them and yell at them. And their parents would take class and I just yell at their parents. So like, that's my vocal training. So yeah, I really love doing that. And I feel like my voice is strong enough to hang in there. Like, I haven't damaged my voice going into these really big yelly roles. Like, Aaron and Kirito just speak and screaming. And I came out of those fine. So yeah, I look forward to doing more stuff like that and to hopefully come back and chug more coffee and play Inosuke again in the future.
Just, how do you feel about taking on taking over such a big role with Broly? Like, do you look forward to continuing if they do more with Super and him?
Well, yeah, it's a touchy subject. But I was contacted by Toei. It wasn't Funimation. I was contacted by someone at Toei, Japanese side, and they asked if I would be interested in taking over the voice of Broly. And that character I'm familiar with, and just Dragon Ball in general, I know that it's all shouting. And so my first reaction was, I don't think so. But then they kept asking me, and so for 4 months I was like, I don't think so. I'm not sure if I want to do that. But they kept asking, and finally I did some research into the character, and they didn't ask me to audition, but I had clips that I'd seen of the latest movie. And so I received those clips because it gave me a backstory of the character. And I was like, all right, well, you know, and actually, I don't know how much I should say, but I heard a lot of behind the scenes people that were like, there's no way you could do this. There's no way Johnny could do that character. And so that kind of made me feel like, well, you know what? let me dive into this and see what I can do. And so, yeah, I took those clips and I played around with it and I tried to find the voice, you know, and the texture that I felt like was right for the character. And I actually posted it on Instagram and they're like, take that down now. But just my process of finding where I was going to place him. And I did that and I sent it and they're like, yep, that's what we were looking for. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'll do the game, you know. And so the things that I did within that game, it wasn't very specific as far as like, you know, like any game. It's like you're doing punches, you know, you don't know where those punches are going. You're doing charge-ups, you don't know exactly where they're going within the game or the story or the arc of the game. So there were a few things that I heard in the game where I was like, oh, that's not the right call out at the right, you know, it was like, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be, you know. So there are some things that were placed in different areas for me that because there's, you know, the character starts at one place and then becomes something else. And so there were a few things where I was like, oh, okay, I wish I would have known more specifically where those call outs were going so I could build the dynamic correctly. But I think as far as anything, it's fine. It's a game. But I don't know what the future of the character is going to be. And in fact, I was told very specifically that there's no guarantee that I would be continuing. And I think it's just because of the situation surrounding the character. So I really don't know, to be honest with you. I do love the story. Does that mean 5 or does that mean time's up?
No, I have a question.
Oh, you have a question? Because your hand was like this, and I was like, I don't know if you're supposed to do that for 5. But hopefully that answers your question. Definitely a character that, I mean, I would love to go back through the film, because there's a lot of really good stuff in the film that I would love to play with. That it was a little bit connected to the game. You know, there were things that they pulled from it. But yeah, I really have no say or control over any of that, to be honest with you. What was your question?
Which is more draining for you guys? A video game like gig or a long series?
For me, I feel like most times video games are much more draining because it's all in your whatever amount of time. Like if you're only there for 4 hours, it's you 4 hours, a lot of times screaming, a lot of times shouting out call-outs or names of moves, all your fight reactions, your punches, your kicks, getting hit, your deaths, you know, all of that kind of.
Yeah, I feel like those video game sessions are like a sprint. Like you're pushed really hard for a short amount of time. Whereas when you're recording like anime, there's a pace to it. You know that you're gonna preview, you're gonna have time between the lines, like you have moments to kind of break and relax. Whereas games, like if they wanna push you to go fast, you can just do lines back to back to back to back for quite a while.
Which is usually the case.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there in the booth by yourself and you're just going the full time, you know.
Let's go over here. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. How well do you think you guys describe as yourselves in the Demon Slayer universe?
Oh man. So there's just these demons that come out at night and eat people, yeah?
I wouldn't sleep at night. I sleep during the day. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It depends. Like, if I live in that forest with all the spiders, I'd probably be spider bait.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, you know, even with like zombie stuff, it's like, I don't know, I feel like it'd be all right.
Yeah, you admitted it pretty well.
I think I'd do all right. I would adjust to that world.
I feel like I opened the wrong door. Like, I just opened the door and there'd be something that would definitely eat me.
It's so quiet in there.
Yeah.
Let me just go see.
Yeah, let me look in here. What's in this door? I'd be that guy. At the beginning, you're like, this guy is definitely not going to last very long. That'd be me.
You'd be the funny guy.
Yeah,
No, not the funny guy.
not the funny guy. He's dying episode 2. We all know that's what would happen.
Yes.
For Bryce, Cat Noir was mentioned earlier. What's
Yeah.
your favorite like Cat Noir line?
It's got to be one of the cat puns. So, the show is a French show. Who's not familiar with Miraculous Ladybug? A few people. So it's set in Paris. There's these superheroes, Ladybug and Cat Noir, and they fight these akumatized bad guys from the town, basically Sailor Moon. It really reminds me of Sailor Moon set in Paris. And in the French version, there are not as many cat puns, and there's a reason for that. It's because I sneak them in the show as much as possible. So a lot of those are not in the script, and we get to these moments where I'm like, a cat pun would totally fit into Flaps, and I just do it. And they're like, wow, that was great. I'm like, perfect. So some of those puns that I sneak in there, I just love, and you know, all of those together are my favorite. Your turn.
So you both stated before that when you study martial arts, it helps with your voice acting career. I was just wondering, for Johnny, does it also help with your singing career? And for Bryce, is there another aspect in your life that it helps with that? Also, hello, and I love you both and do that.
Thank you. Thanks. Gosh, martial art. I don't know that it really helped me as far as singing. Singing for me was, there was a time after Power Rangers where I had lost everything. I was virtually homeless. I had, 2 trash bags full of clothes, a guitar, a broken cot, and I was basically living with whoever would let me stay with them. And so in that time, I was really searching for what in the world am I going to do? How can I come off of this show that it was great, and then now I have absolutely nothing. And so I just picked up a guitar, and the guitar I had that I bought many years ago, and one day I'm going to learn how to play, and I basically taught myself how to play in that time. And it helped bring me out of this funk, and I started to try to write songs, and I would start singing, and I had written a song, and my sister and my dad came out to visit, and when they were there, I was like, hey, I wrote a song. And they're like, oh, sweet, yeah, let's hear it. So I started playing them this song, and I could see that the smiles that they had on their faces as I was singing, they were like starting to drop from their face, and it's melting. It's like, ugh. And I was like, that's a work in progress. And so I went and I bought like a 4-track recorder, and I recorded it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it sounds terrible. And so then I played it again, and then I was like, this part sounds weird. And so I adjusted my pitch, and I changed it. I was like, that's better. And so I did that for many years until I could hear correctly, because you don't know exactly what's coming out. And it doesn't translate all the time, and for me it didn't, and so I was like, oh, okay, so that's where my pitch is, and that's how, and so it was a little tricky thing for me to, doing that taught me pitch control, basically. And I think that, going through that process personally myself, helped me later as a voice actor, because then I can kind of hear the correct emotion coming out. I felt this emotion, I want to be able to hear that same emotion. That's, and sometimes when you speak, it doesn't come out exactly the way that you think it's going to come out.
Did it help you with projecting at all?
No, I've always had, it's weird, not for me. Maybe for other people it might. The only thing for me, martial arts wise, helped me was to be able to chase a fight scene and feel like just completely confident in the noise, And for me, I did this show called Super Ninjas, where I played this bad ninja. And I went into the session, and I'll try to do this fast. I went into the session, and I was early, but I heard like they were recording somebody else, and they were going overtime, and like it was taking forever, and I'm sitting there waiting for my session, my time is going, and then this guy finally comes out, and the director comes out, and it's just like heavy sighs, like, all right, you ready to go? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And this is after I'd been doing voiceover for a long time, and I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I go in there, and he's like, all right, so this is, your character, but, we have to do all your fight stuff, and he was like, we'll just watch a couple swings and try to get a couple of those noises, and then we'll just keep going. And I was like, well, just play it. And it's like, like a minute-long fight. And he was like, it's a long fight. And I was like, yeah, just, I'll just chase it, and, you guys tell me if it's right. And he's like, all right. And so he did. They record, and I chase it, and they're like, what, have you done voiceover before? And I was like, yeah, I've done it a few times. And he's like, what were those noises you were making? And I was like, those are just, fight reactions. And it's like, I think we're done. I think we're finished. Like, it was like no time at all. And he was like, I feel wrong not trying it again, but it was perfect. And I was like, yeah, okay, if you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. And then they're like, yeah, okay, cool. And then so I left, and I was like, sweet, maybe made that guy's day. And then later when I watched that episode, all the ninjas in that entire show had my fight with. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. They just copy-pasted all my fight noises over all the other ninjas. But sorry, that took a long time to explain.
That's great. I think something that most martial artists that are successful have is tenacity and the sort of willingness to practice things over and over and over. And like Johnny was saying with his singing, like he practiced over and over and over to improve. And I feel like that's what I learned in martial arts is like the sort of not give up type attitude when you face adversity. And I think that's something very important for voice actors to have. Because there is a tremendous amount of competition out there. And I really look at auditions as buying lotto tickets. Like, you're literally just sending your voice out there in the void and you hope something comes back, and most of the time nothing does. But when it does, it's super exciting. So I feel like I've really learned to apply that aspect of martial arts to everything in my life. And that really helped me become successful in the industry. Just not giving up and, head down, continue to work and push forward.
Yeah, definitely learned a lot of discipline. And that is absolutely true.
Never give up. Never give up. I can't see either.
That says 10 maybe? It's so tiny. Is it your turn or my turn? I don't know. I'll just pick right here. Yes. Yes.
It's a question for Bryce.
Yeah.
So about Sword Art Online Oscillation, what was your first impression of it?
Sorry, all I heard was... Just be a little bit louder.
What was your impression of the third season of Sword Art Online?
The new season of Sword Art, Alicization. Who's seen Alicization? Awesome. A lot of people haven't, so I'm going to try not to spoil anything. I thought it was really cool. I feel like it was kind of a reset for the character. Like, he started at the beginning again, and Kirito is pretty overpowered at a lot of the time in the show because he's cheating. Outside of the game, he's pretty much a weakling, but in games, he's amazing. So I feel like this third season was kind of a reset for the character, and it was really cool to play him in a different way. I played Kirito kind of in the game as a teenager, and outside the game as himself, and then in Gun Gale as a female avatar, which was amazing to play him as a girl, and then in Alicization to play him kind of as a younger version of himself was really awesome. And now in this newest arc, I'll try not to spoil anything here too. I'm doing a lot of just breathing. For you guys who know what's going on. He's different than his normal self, and that was kind of a unique experience too. I played a lot of it sitting down to change the way I would perform in those moments. I just hope he's back to his regular self by this next arc. But I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really well made, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Yeah.
You guys probably get asked this a lot, but was there ever a role that you just like loathed or just like hated entirely? Not to say anything against like a character or whatever, but like there was a role that like really put a strain on your voice, or like really like you just hated doing it, or just didn't like doing it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm a big fan of paying my rent, and I know how difficult it is to get cast and stuff, so I tend to love every moment in the booth. But you've had those times where you're like, what am I doing?
yeah, there's definitely been those moments. One, I mean, I've told this story many times, but I got called the night before. I got called at night, and I was asked, hey, we've got a game that we're working on. We need somebody to fill in some miscellaneous whatever on the game. And I was like, sure, because I was available, and games pay a lot better. And so I go in, and he's like, all right, so you're going to be Goblin, and it was like a number, like number 13. And he's like, it's over there on the table, and I look through it, and the Goblin 13 character, it was all just vowels. It was like all O's, O, A, A, I, E. I'm like, what's going on there? I was like, hey, so I'm just seeing vowels. What am I supposed to do as the character? He's like, oh, it's just goblin noises. So you're just like gonna be a goblin. I was like, oh, okay. What is that? What do you mean by that? He's like, well, like goblin. This was before Lord of the Rings. It's like, goblin growling, that sort of stuff, and you're just a goblin soldier. And I was like, okay. And I'd never done any kind of monster noises or character noises ever, and so I was scared, and I thought, what in the world am I gonna do? And I thought back, when I was little, I had this guinea pig, and I would, talk with it. And I was like, "Rrr." And he's like, yeah, do that. And so for 4 hours, I was like, "Rrr," screaming like a guinea pig goblin. And it's like, you're falling off a cliff, on no spike, whatever. He's like, "Rrr, you're being electrocuted, you're on fire." So for 4 hours I did that, screaming, and at the end of that session, I couldn't talk. I was like, thanks. But I was like done with that session, and the next day I was supposed to start like the lead in this series, and I could not talk. And so I lost a complete series because I couldn't speak. And the thing is on that game, it was like top secret. I don't know the name of the project. I think it was like maybe a Namco game, but it was all top secret. I had no idea. I was like goblin a number, so it's not something I could look up. And so, it's a game I have no idea the name of, if it was good or not. And I just screamed, lost my voice, lost an entire series. So my least favorite was whatever that was.
I love our job. You're just, normal goblin sounds, whatever. Get in there. And go.
Thank you.
Where I've gone in and made weird noises. I've had those, but not to that extent where they push you to 4 hours. I lost my voice on Call of Duty, doing like military screams, because you can't fake that stuff. And they ranked all of the sounds from like 1 to 4, where 1 is like, there's battle way down away, 2 is like you're yelling to someone 30 feet away, 3 is like someone's firing a gun right by your head, and 4 is like mortar is exploding in front of you. And all mine were like 3s and 4s. So I walked out of that session with no voice at all, but I got really lucky that I didn't have the booking the next day. Those are tough, but I was like, I'm in Call of Duty, this is awesome. I haven't had that moment where someone like just destroys me as a monster, as a goblin, and then I have to work the next day.
I think we have time for like one more question. So someone new, yeah? Want to pick?
Sweet, let's go over here.
I'm a big Dungeons & Dragons player, so I try to do this for all my characters. Do you have any tips for how to separate different characters in case they go back to that?
For me, usually it's a line that the character says. It's like usually one of the first. Sometimes it's the character's name. Ichigo Kurosaki. you know, or whatever, and then, or it's, you know, a laugh, or it's that, usually there's something that I'm like, I really remember this as far as this character, and then I can find it that way. Also, the placement, I have like a mental visual reference for where my voice is at. It's in my chest, it's in my throat, it's the top of my throat, the back of my throat, it's in front of my face. So it just depends on where I see that voice. You know, is it higher in my head? You know, whatever. Is it clearer? Is it raspier in the back? So I have like this placement that I'm like, oh, okay, Ichigo's a little more in here, and so it just depends. For me, that's what I see.
Yeah, when you start on a show, they record your first session, you kind of establish the character, and they put together what's called a vocal ref. So that's like maybe a collection of like 3 to 5 lines that just get you back into the character. So if you're kind of booth hopping and being a lot of different people in the same day, like it's hard to get back into that role. But when you listen to yourself and you kind of listen and repeat, that kind of gets you back into the spirit of it. And very similar to Johnny, like I have like a facial expression that I'll make, or like some kind of position of my body. Yeah, multiple cups of coffee. Like that's it for Inosuke for sure. Something that I do that just reminds me of the moment that I had been recording that character the first day, and that takes me back to that voice.
Yeah, I think a good idea would be just to record that character on your phone. I do that a lot of times too. Like my auditions, I'll transfer them onto my phone, because if I do get that role, then I definitely need to, like if I have a callback audition, a second audition, I have to listen to that and be like, oh, where was I?
Yeah.
So, because auditions, you do them and then you just forget them. You're just
Yeah.
like, all right, that's done. You know, but if you get that callback, you're going into it, yeah, you kind of need to remember where you're at. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for, I hope that you had a great con.
Yeah, this is a great panel.
I just got autographs here around 1 o'clock. You?
Yep, same thing.
Same thing? All right.
The autographs in a bit. We'll see you guys over there.
Yeah, we'll see you guys. Thank you guys.
Thanks.